Hi, and welcome everyone to the Nurse Shark Academy show. This is Tina Baxter, and I'm your hostess. And I wanted to go ahead and introduce you to this uh, week's segment. We have Connie Schaefer, who's a certified legal nurse consultant, and she's going to talk to us about her journey as a nurse. So, Connie, would you care to introduce yourself?
Well, thank you, Tina. It's so good to be here. It's quite an honor. I appreciate it. I've been a nurse for over 40 years. I can't believe now that it's 2023, it will be 40, it's 42 years. And that's just amazing to me. But I've had a variety of backgrounds in my nursing experience. I mean, almost everything except for babies and pediatrics. Other than through the emergency room, I really have focused primarily on adult medicine throughout my 40 plus years. My recent 20 years, I've been an infection preventionist, and this is an interesting area of focus because as you know, the world has gone a little bit crazy over infections over the last couple of years, i.e. COVID. And
Yes,
and it was
monkeypox.
yeah, that's true. I didn't mention monkeypox, but
Mhm.
in the 20 years I've lived through SARS-1, H1N1, Ebola, there's just been so many, but none of them were on the scale of what COVID is. And so, but that has been my 20 out of 40 years experience. I also have some long-term care training, and I've worked in ICU, a variety of ICUs, the neuro and the cardiac, and the emergency department. And so it's plus I've got a few little extra things on the side. Did some home health and hospice, and I mean, in 40 some years, you can do quite a bit of different types of nursing. So
I I I I totally understand that in the past 25 years I've been in healthcare. I've done a variety of things myself. One question I like to ask all of our guests is what made you decide to become a nurse?
oh, that's kind of a funny story. When I was in high school, I liked theater and drama, and I was in a play. It was called, well, it was about Harvey, the Invisible Rabbit. If you have any recollection of what that story was about, but I played the part of kind of a dingbat nurse. Nurse Kelly was her name. I mean, she had a short skirt, and that was me. That's
Mhm.
the role I played. And I had a ball in my theater experience. But after that, I had, you would not believe how many people came up and said, Connie, you really should think about going into nursing. I know it was a silly role that you were playing, but you have what it takes to be a nurse, and I really think you should consider it. So that was in the back of my mind. When I went to college, I went as a human development in the family major in the college where I started, which is pediatrics and babies. And it's like, that's not even my area that I'm interested in. I have no idea why I did that, but I did. I remember one of our labs was called the Brat Lab, which is terrible. I can't even. But I got into that and I realized, this is really not for me. And so literally was driving down the road, and there was the hospital with the School of Nursing. And I pulled in, grabbed an application, filled it out, got in, and the rest is history. It's just crazy. That's been a long time ago. So
So did you start off as a diploma nurse then?
I did. And believe it or not, that School of Nursing is still putting out diploma grads.
Wonderful.
It's one of the few in the country. And truly, the grads from that program really ran the hospital. I mean, the hospital probably could not have functioned without all of the students that was helping out in the hospital at that time. So
I know it's certainly true, that that's been the case during COVID. We've had several students that were immediately put into positions as graduate nurses,
oh
during COVID.
yes.
So, yeah.
So true.
Yeah. So, shifting forward, you went back to school and got became a nurse, and then what did you do after that?
um, well, education wise, this is kind of funny, Tina. We didn't talk about this before, but I got my PhD degree. What that means is putting hubby through. I paid all the bills to get my husband's master's degree. And then after that, I paid all the bills to get all of my children's master's degrees. And I never got mine. So, and I've thought about it, but 40 some years of experience, I think, hopefully carries enough weight and experience to carry me through. I've had positions that truly I believe is a God thing because they truly are required master level programs, and yet they hired me. And so I don't know how to say other than it's been God led over my 40 some years of experience, because I don't have that beautiful degree after my name, just RN CLNC. That's it. So
But I want our listeners to understand that no matter where you are, start with what you have.
oh my goodness. That was the one thing that encouraged me so much, because they talked about whatever your USP, which is your unique, what is that? Unique, um, I can't even remember what the words letters stand for, but it's who I am as a nurse and my experience that I bring into this. Now, for one person like you, Tina, your education is amazing and it's so impressive. And that's going to be your unique selling position. That's what it is, unique selling.
Yes.
But for me, that isn't my strength. And yet I can function without any problem as a legal nurse consultant. I have the experience, I have the reputation. And so I'm grateful. I've thought about it. I'm in my 60s now. I thought, now's the time. I've got everybody else through school. I could go back, but I just am,
Mhm.
satisfied to be able to work as a legal nurse and do it quite well without that. My unique selling position is not the letters after my name. It is my 40 some years experience. So,
And I was going to say I've worked with many diploma nurses,
mhm.
and for me, they made some of the best nurses because they lived and worked at the same time. A lot of the nurses I worked at Catholic hospitals. So a lot of the nurses were either nuns or had gone under the tutelage of nuns. And so if you've ever worked at a Catholic hospital, they can be a bit strict on what you can and can't do. And back then, they made sure that you knew what you were doing before you ever took that test, because you were right there from day one in the field. And I
Yes.
think in academia, we sometimes have lost that.
Yes.
Um, and I sit here with 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's and a postmaster's, and I'm saying that having that experience, that field experience, put me at an advantage to my other nursing school colleagues, because I was already a CNA, so I'd already been working in a nursing home and talking to patients and doing the basic care, so that when it came time for me to do the clinicals, I was more comfortable
Sure.
than the rest of them, and I could pass bed making.
There you go. There you go. I have so much respect for you and for the other nurses that have gone on and gotten those advanced degrees. I think it's fantastic. It just wasn't in the cards in my world, but it's fine. I can still work as a legal nurse consultant. I still have the knowledge. I know how to read the medical record. I've been doing it for all these years. I know what to look for. And then also with my infection prevention, we did a lot of chart extraction in that arena of the world, and to find out those hospital acquired infections and various things like that. And so, I mean, you just take what you have and go with it. And I think I failed to mention also that I have some long-term care training. Did a little bit as a director of nursing and as well as the infection preventionist, and learned all those regulations and surveys and all those fun things that go with that as well. So
So
that's
so you've been through the regulatory process several
yeah.
times.
several
And
times,
and
yes.
so is there anything that any tips or tricks you can tell us about the best way, particularly with infection disease, because that's one of the things that's been a hot topic with
Totally.
all the regulations, and CMS is really looking at those infection rates. Is there anything that, as a facility or individual nurse, even, what we can do to help in those areas?
Honestly, Tina, it's getting back to the basics. It's what we learned as baby nurses when we were just starting out, the importance of scrubbing the hub before you give an IV medication. I mean, the reason why we change our IV dressings and why we use aseptic technique when we put the Foley catheters in, it's the very basics. And I think that the thing that I so enjoyed doing was being able to hold accountable and provide support to the frontline staff. Because, sometimes it's not a matter of them doing the wrong thing because it's the wrong thing. It's because they don't know. And that's where I get to come in and I get to help show them. And it is so rewarding to see them be able to learn how to change the central line dressing and do it well, and just have increase their confidence and provide better patient care. So again, it's back to the basics. Now, in terms of administration, you've got to keep all your records. You've got to know how to, follow an Excel file and how to put in data into the NHSN system with the CDC. And these are all the things that you just have to learn to do and do it because the government requires it. And that's just all there is to it. However, there are many, many helps and support systems out there to help you as you are learning that process. So, yeah.
I've worked in nursing homes for a long time, and
Mhm.
one of the things that I noticed is that nursing homes are, in particular, are afraid to report things to the state. Um, I
Yes.
had a case of a latent TB infection. It was latent. Um, and I said we need to treat him, and I got pushback from the facility because it's reportable to the state.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, but that's a good thing because that's showing that you're doing the right thing.
Yes, yes. That I've seen that so many times. I have done so far in my short legal nurse consulting career, I've done about 8 or 10 cases that were all long-term care, and that is the common theme. Is say one of their residents would fall and they wouldn't report it. Fall with an injury and they wouldn't report it because they're so afraid of surveyors showing up on their front door and coming in and finding them doing something not right. And the fact of the matter is if they are doing it right, there's no reason to fear, because falls do happen, and it doesn't necessarily mean that there was any fault involved. But the fact that they didn't report is a problem. So.
Yes, it took an infectious disease specialist physician actually for me to convince them that they needed to treat this man and for them to understand that they did need to isolate him. He did so much better after treatment, to the point that he was asking me for Viagra.
Oh my goodness. He was better.
He was much better. And so I just wanted to point out that, um, particularly since infectious disease is such a hot topic right now with CMS, and we've talked about it because of COVID and everything. This is a great time for you to make those changes in your facility protocols and to make sure that you get a specialist like yourself involved in helping you make the right decisions. So let's transition. How did you become a legal nurse consultant?
Well, that's another one of those funny stories. Um, I really kind of hit the wall in my world of COVID. And started.
One moment, please. Okay, go ahead.
Well, it's an interesting story. After 20 years as an infection preventionist, and I mentioned that COVID caused many people to suffer undue stress, and we saw exiting the nursing from the traditional healthcare because of the stress involved, and I was one of those casualties, unfortunately, but. It was a good thing for me because I absolutely love my legal nurse career. But what happened was it started affecting my health. I worried about things, I guess. I stopped sleeping, and everybody needs their sleep. And so I went, I had to leave my beloved profession, and I not only loved it, but I was really good at it. And it was really difficult, but I just remember searching, and I thought, I need to find something where I can work from home. And so I started searching online, and seemed like I just kept hitting roadblocks and closed doors. And I'm a woman of faith, and I believe that God guides and directs. And I remember just almost to the point one particular day of giving up because I had searched and searched and searched and didn't find anything for home. And then I heard, I'm not kidding, I was the only one in the house, and I heard a whisper. Actually, it was loud. It was an audible sounding voice that said, "Call attorneys." And I literally laughed out loud. I thought, that is the funniest thing. Why would a nurse ever call attorneys? What does nursing have to do with attorneys? And I didn't know any attorneys. So I thought, well, I don't know what to do with that. But I had learned over my years in my walking in faith that when you hear something that strong, you pay attention to it. And so I obeyed. And so I started calling my local area. I live in a small town, and none of the local attorneys had any need for it. But I was so very bad, Tina, that the only explanation for it working was it had to be a God thing, because I then pulled up the largest city nearby, and the third phone call I made, I was so bad. Usually you can't get past the gatekeeper, but this particular time, the receptionist answered the phone, and I said, "You don't need a nurse, do you?" I mean, how bad is that? She said, "Just a moment." And 30 seconds later, I was on a conference call with a room full of attorneys and paralegals. They interviewed me on the spot, and I was hired. It was God leading. And I tell you what, that particular attorney that I'm still working with. He was the one that introduced me, kind of taught me the ropes. And it was soon after that that I decided on my own to get my certification, because I've always believed in certification. You become better when you're certified, and then the rest is history. But it was definitely an interesting way to start. It wasn't this long, dramatic reason for joining the legal nurse profession. But again, it was much like how I decided to be a nurse, just driving down the road and seeing the hospital, and okay, Lord, I'll follow you. The rest is history. So that's what happened.
So, in starting your business, how has it been transitioning from being an employee to an entrepreneur?
So that's a good question. I also believe that nothing is ever wasted. Everything that a person goes through, even failures, in fact, most often failures, will prepare you for whatever is out there in your future if you let it. And so over the last many years, I always had little side businesses. I've always sold a product that I really enjoyed, and usually I didn't do it for the money necessarily. I did it because I liked the products and I wanted to share it. But all of those were experiences to allow me to kind of promote whatever product, promote whatever idea that I had. And so all of that was used, and I was able to totally just use those skills and to develop my own business. And of course, the training with the CLNC, the certification program, helped me to know the ins and outs. And I ask a lot of questions. And there's people like you that I ask, how do you do such and such? And that's how I've been able to grow. I also have gone to two attorney conferences, which have been tremendous. I was I was a vendor at their conferences. You got a chance to meet all of these attorneys. It was in Kansas City, Missouri. And so I got Kansas, Missouri, various attorneys from all over, and I have made some amazing contacts. And in just a short time, I'm coming up on 2 years as a legal nurse, and I've been to 2 conferences, but I'm keeping busy, and I'm so grateful. I'd hoped that this profession would help slide me into retirement, and I plan to continue because I love it. And I love it because I can work it into my schedule. I can see my grandkids, and I can go up and take care of my parents when they need it. And you could not do this with a job. And I'm just so grateful. And so that's a little bit. It just kind of has happened. So.
It sounds wonderful. And so, for those of you that are thinking about entrepreneurship, this is one of the perks of being an entrepreneur is setting your own schedule, um, which makes it great because it leaves you time to do all the things that are most important to you, like taking care of family. And so, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced as an entrepreneur?
So, probably the biggest challenge, and it's an ongoing challenge, is continuing to be visible so that, because most of the time, what I've learned is attorneys don't even realize how much they need our help. They think they could do it themselves. I mean,
Yes.
they didn't go to medical school. They didn't go to nursing school. I don't know how. I know they're smart people. They truly are. But how do they think that they understand the medical record to find those nuances that we find, all those red flags that are hidden in the medical record? That's what we do. And just like when you're putting together a puzzle, you have a methodical plan. You do the outside edges first, and then you put all the colors together, and then you somehow figure it out until voila, you've got this beautiful finished product, this beautiful finished puzzle. It's the same way. Attorneys need to see that their plan, if it's the outside edges, then maybe that's me to look at the medical record and to give them the structure they're needing, and then they do their magic with their law, which is truly magic, but and them know how I can help them. And I'm learning. I'm making cards. I'm sending emails. I'm doing follow up. Everything that you need to do just to become visible, and just in a matter of time, it just happens. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time with us, and I'm going to say if there's one last thing that you can tell our listeners about either being a nurse or an entrepreneur, what is the best advice that you would leave us with?
Just do it. Do something every day. Set a goal and say every week you need to contact 3 attorneys. And then it gets to be Thursday and then Friday, and you haven't done it yet. Just do it. That's all it takes, because it's like filling the pipeline. As you do it over time, it starts to overflow. And you can't just expect it to happen without you doing these little baby steps along the way. It will happen. You just have to set those goals and follow through.
All right. Well, that ends our time today. I want to thank you for joining us on the Nurse Shark Academy. Please like and subscribe to our channel. You can see us on YouTube. We're also on Podbean and other places where you get your podcast. Thank you for joining us, Connie, and have a great day to all
Thank
of
you.
our
You as
listeners.
well. Okay.